What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Dharma Time, or I guess Dope and Dharma, doing Dharma Time on WPSN99.com. If you're watching this, you're probably watching on Facebook.com/. WPSN99, or you're checking out our YouTube channel at YouTube.com/Dharma Time. And then you're seeing my face as the Dharma Guy, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Dope Doctor so you can see his pretty face too. Look at you. You look like you got some sun.
I'm
Yesterday
I'm in
when I saw you, it looked like you got some sun, so it's
I'm
all that
I'm
jacuzzi time in your backyard.
jacuzzi and beach time, man. It's New Smyrna Beach, bro. The
Sure.
sun is beautiful. We've been walking the dogs on the beach again.
Oh,
It's
wow.
warmed up.
Right on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, we are also, on Fridays, we do another show called The Couch Live, as well as a couple other ones, We in the Middle, and a sports show that we occasionally do. But as of last night, we have
Yeah.
brought The Couch Live back to terrestrial radio. So here locally, we're on, it's 1060, right?
1680.
Oh,
You're
1680.
close though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still new, man. I'm still
I used to be at 1060 actually. The couch live was on 1060
right
before.
on.
It says 1680.
1680 AM here in locally, and I believe they've got plans to move to the FM side of things shortly. So we'll let you know when that happens. But if you're here locally and you want to listen to us live and even call in, you could do that via their website, and that's 16. Was it WOKBradio.com is what it is.
That's right.
Um, you can and through that, or even through their Facebook, you can watch us live because I believe they had a camera in the studio last night. So it was pretty
Mhm.
cool. It's a little different than what we normally do because we take call-ins in that show. So oh look, my mom chimed in and said it was an awesome show. So look at that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, a little bit different than Dharma Time, only because on that show, the Couch Live, we focus more on addiction-related topics. Having said that, we're still dope and Dharma, so we do no matter what show we're on, and
Hmm.
we appreciate you guys, and no matter how you're consuming us, whether it be podcasting, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, we appreciate the eyeballs. Um,
Yep.
so having said that, today's show, let's just jump right in it, man. Today's show is a continuation of our five-part series. Look at that, count them, five. Uh,
Cinco.
that's right. So we've already done. This is about communication, right? There's
Yeah.
so many different ways of communicating with one another these days, and each particular platform for communication comes with so many different nuances and expectations and essentially opportunities to be offended or opportunities to hurt your feelings or hurt somebody else's feelings. Um,
Right.
and that typically leads to a lot of other things that the end result is a lack of inner peace for everybody who's involved. And so we decided to come up with a five-part series to talk about some of these different platforms and how to best use them skillfully, essentially. Um, with the main kind of idea is being respectful of other people's not only their time but other people's perspective. So we've already done. Let me see if I remember correctly. The first one was texting. We did. The second one was email. The third
Yep.
one, which was last week, was phone calls. And
Yep.
today, I think we saved our best two, I think, for the last two. So today is going to be a big one. Today is going to be on in person meeting. So for those of you younger generations, what that means is you actually see another human being face to face in real life. Not via digital screen, not texting, not calling.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Pre-COVID.
pre-COVID. So no actual technology is involved in this particular meeting, if you will. This is when two human beings actually sit across from one another or stand within vicinity of one another and converse about things. I know it's a crazy idea, but it's how we used to do it in the old times, and some people
Yeah.
still prefer to do it that way. And
There's
so
people in California and New York that just don't
uh,
know what you're talking about right now.
yeah, well, I've got some opinions on that one, but we'll save that one for the We the Middle show. Um, Simon just said IRL is their acronym. That's in real life, and he's
Oh, wow.
100% right. Yes. So the thing with in-person meeting or IRL, if you want to call it that, what I've noticed is I think as our age group, and Simon, you would be included in this one. I think we kind of take it for granted on how used to it or how easy we find it. Like talking
Hmm.
to some of the younger generations, because I've got kids now in varying ages, and I never realized, I guess, the anxiety that could come with that, with meeting somebody in person. Because I guess well, growing up, I didn't have the option not to, right? We didn't have the internet. We didn't even have email and text messages and stuff. So if I wanted to interact with somebody, it was either bug my mom to use the phone or go out and see somebody. So I kind of just was raised around that, and I guess in today's world I took it for granted, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense because my younger ones now, they don't do like what I used to do. When I was a kid, I had like tons of friends in the neighborhood. I was always out. Like my kids, they don't do that. They hang out with each other. They hang out in the house. Um, the old days of just running the streets and running the neighborhoods, just at least in my family, doesn't really. It's not the same as it used to be, and it
No.
doesn't feel the same either. Because when I'm driving in and out of the neighborhood, I know there's kids that live here, and I don't see a whole bunch of them out, running around. I see like on my street, there's like two houses, and even those kids kind of hang out in their driveway. Like they're not out
Right.
like running around. So. Um, I think today's a good day to talk about in-person meeting and all the different nuances that come along with it. What are your thoughts, man? Before we jump into our list.
I think my daughters would be offended if I ever told them to go ahead and drink out of the hose when we were out there
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, my kids would lose their mind. They're like, "What? You want me to drink out of that?" Yeah, yeah. I
It
spent
was always
many a
hot when
summers.
you first turned it on.
Yes, yes. I spent many a summers drinking out of the hose, man. Simon just says, "I don't know where all the kids got to. A few of the neighbors play together with our kids." Yeah, man. It's like a weird thing, right? Like I don't know why that happened. I don't know if it's a safety issue. I don't know if it's a convenience issue. If it's lazy. I don't know. Here in Orlando, I do know it's hot, so a lot of times they don't want to go outside.
You
But
don't miss
I don't. Huh?
you don't miss what you've never had. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to when I was a kid. I remember I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican, so my Puerto Rican side of the family, my cousins had never seen snow. I mean, I remember living in Germany, it was all snow, and then you came here back to the United States, it was all snow.
Right.
It was snow everywhere. And I would ask them, I said, "You've never seen snow? You never went skiing or anything like that?" And they'd be like,
Right.
"Nah." I go, "Don't you miss it?" They go, "We don't even know what it is, man. How can you
Right.
miss it?" And that's when I first learned about it. If you've never had it, of course you don't miss it. It's
Sure.
not a big deal because you've never had it.
But why do you think it stopped?
Well,
Just out of curiosity, why do you think the meeting, like in-person meeting, is, I guess, seen as right now, anyways, more traditionally like old school people? Like the younger generation don't really see the value, I guess, sometimes in in-person meeting, whereas we might.
I think for younger people because it's easier to find people of like-mindedness. Typically,
I
I
can see
think
that.
you have to meet a lot of people in person to find people that are like you or similar to you. There's a lot, and there's a lot of people have anxiety with that.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you find them, right? Whereas online allows you to scroll through a lot more variation of people, and you typically meet people where you're at, right? So like when you're playing the games, right? When you're playing
Yeah.
games, you always mention Reddit, like, you know what I mean? So
Right.
uh, I don't have that, so I'm not really familiar with it. But by the way it sounds like you're communicating with people that are already doing what you're doing or liking what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of those kinds of platforms available that made it just real easy. And next thing you turn around and it's 5, 10 years down the road, and that's your new
Yeah,
world.
I will say the convenience factor is amazing. I made the mistake of turning my wife on the Reddit, and now she can't stop. Um, it's definitely convenient. Um, I will say though that the level of importance that we, I'll say old timers, put on in-person meeting is lost on the younger generations. They don't value it in the same way that we still do. And I'm not. You and I have talked about this at length. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, right? You
Yeah, I
know,
don't know.
we tend to think it's a bad thing because we're coming at it from our perspective and our experiences. However,
Right.
that's where the world is going, so it's hard to put our expectations on the newer generations. I
Yeah.
will say though, I'm thankful that I'm on the back half now, that I don't have to adapt to these things very much. Even I say that while we're doing an online show at the moment,
Right.
but I like the fact that I still value in-person meeting. I like the fact that I still value sitting down with another human being and giving each other our time. I still value that a lot, actually. And there's certain things that I prefer to do in person via instead of electronically. And so I try to give that to my kids as much as possible. But like I said, they are the first ones to open my eyes to the complexity of in-person meeting, which is why we're doing the show today. Um, because I've seen it stress them out. I've seen them giving them anxiety. Simple things like the older ones going to like a job interview or pick up the phone and just call in a business for something. Like they really don't. They're not prepared well for that. And so I try to go out of my way to help them. But that's where I first started seeing the kind of disconnect, and I started realizing like, wow, apparently this is a much bigger problem, right?
Right.
And so that's what we're doing today. Um, let me before I get started, I'll talk. Simon just said, have found the hardest time finding mutually agreeable windows of time to meet any folks. That I understand. Absolutely. That's why I said the convenience factor definitely comes in. It's very,
Yeah.
very convenient to be able to shoot somebody a text message or phone call or whatever. But I'll say for
Or
me
Zooming.
personally, yeah, but for me personally, it's not as rewarding. It just isn't. Like even this right here, right? Us doing face to face, it's functional. We're able to get the job done. We're able to
Right.
touch millions of people potentially. Hopefully, that'd be awesome. But uh, it felt so much different last night. In the actual studio with the microphones and people there talking, looking at the producer behind the glass. Like this, the ambiance was just so much different. And it is. It's better. It is. In person to me is just better. Even though electronics is much more convenient. Um,
Right. Right.
but having said that, let's go ahead and start talking through some of the in-person stuff here. Once
Okay.
again, as usual, we've got a pretty long list here. It's in no particular order, but we're going to just start running down the list. And by all means, if you guys are watching live on Facebook.com/WPSN99, by all means, feel free to comment, as Simon and my mother have already started to do. We'd love to hear your thoughts and input as well. So, once again, no particular order. The first one I got here, and I'm going to assume this one was pretty important because we both said it number one, although it's kind of an interesting one to jump right into. But that is the meeting of the opposite sex in person. Um, that one's kind of a big one, right? I do think that because I view it as a more intimate situation than
Yeah.
just a simple text message, there are certain meetings that I'm hesitant to take sometimes. Like if somebody, you and I both have a mutual friend that is involved with the foundation with us. At one point, they asked us to, they were going to be in town and they wanted to meet. And you and I both immediately were like, uh, I'm good. You're like, first of all, there was no immediate business to deal with, so it was really just a kind of catch up type of meeting. And this person just so happened to be the opposite sex, and she's pretty attractive. And so you and I both were like, I'm good, and not that our wives would care necessarily, but I think you and I approach it the same, and that is the optics of the situation. Out
Right.
of respect for my wife, I choose to reduce the amount of in-person meetings I have with the opposite sex. Not that I think that I've got this crazy magnetism that no woman could be in the room alone. No, it's more just respect. I don't want my wife thinking. I don't want ever to have any opportunity for my wife to even consider or worry or think about that. I'm a Orlando, as big as it is a pretty small place, and so and I stick out like a sore thumb. So the last thing I want to is to go off on a meeting with somebody, at like coffee or whatever, and have my wife getting a phone call from somebody. Hey, I think I saw your. I just don't want to deal with that, and so it's unnecessary. So I choose not to place myself in those situations. And I know not everybody does that, and some people think I overthink it. But I'll tell you this much: I don't have any problems with trust revolving around fidelity in my home either. And I don't think that those things are unrelated. I think the fact that I have such a high ideal towards it, and I go out of my way, as much as my wife says she doesn't care, I think she appreciates it. What do you think? What are your thoughts? I
I
already
think.
know your thoughts. Let them know your thoughts.
Well, uh, part of it is, by the way, if you're a guy out there and you want to meet up, I'll probably not meet up either.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that one
So,
yet.
in all fairness, I just pretty much look for excuses not to break my normal routine because I kind of
Yeah,
like my routine, and it's
yeah,
it's really hard to break them, right? And everything's far away. So I've gotten a little lazier with going out and meeting people in my
yeah.
older age. But along what you're saying, I think I learned that from my wife. I didn't know that, to be honest. So I'm going to speak a little bit to the people that may not agree with what you said right now. Because I used to not agree with it. I used to
I
think
think a
that,
lot of people don't agree.
yeah, I would be like, what does it matter? I mean, I know my intent, and if my intent is not to be a cheater or to be creepy, I'm not trying to Cuomo the chick. What's the problem? You know? But my wife taught me real early on. She goes, the optics, like you said, and so it's not necessarily. what your intent is, or what their intent is, although sometimes it is what their intent is.
Sure.
It's not a good look. And I'd be like, well, I don't care what people think, but you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, that's like saying, I'm just being real. I'm just being real, and I don't care what people think. Are two ways of just ignoring the reality that it offends. And I'm not talking to the way left approach of offense. I'm just talking about offense to to a significant person that you care about. And so if there's anybody on this planet that you should care about offending or disrespecting, is the person that you've made vows to. So for that reason alone, I don't think it's a good look. I don't think that there's too much good reason to do that. Now, if it's part of your job, it's part of your job.
Yeah, of course.
But then be mindful of it. Be in the right kind of environments, do the right kinds of things. Now, if you're having drinks with a person,
Yeah, that's a little bit different.
that's
And
a
I think
whole
that's
dog. What was that?
I think that's on the list here as well. I'm looking at it. So
It's
just
not
revolve around the opposite sex, or even same
coffee.
sex, if that's how you roll.
Yeah, right.
Bottom line is, I take or don't take meetings oftentimes based upon how it's going to respect or disrespect my wife, or what kind of position it may or may not put her in. That's
Right.
kind of how I approach it. And like I said, some people don't care about that, or some people think that's silly or whatever, and it very well may be, But for me, it just works. It works
Right.
because very few times do I find myself either in situations where like I have to, it's not part of my job per se.
Right.
So if I take a meeting, it's typically optional. And most people that we deal with, anyways, are comfortable doing emails and phone calls, that kind of thing. Very
Right.
few times do I have to physically meet with somebody. Um, but anyways, it's something you should be mindful of. Like I said, it's not about your intent. It's about how you're gonna make the other person feel. Because I don't ever want I don't ever want my wife to have that worry. You know what I mean? And
Right.
we're human. And if enough things start to add up, let's say you guys are fighting. Let's say you guys are just having a bad moment, and they're starting to feel a little insecure at that moment. And then all of a sudden, at that exact moment, oh, now you're going to go off and meet this person. And
Yeah.
then somebody calls them and say, hey, I saw them. It's a perfect storm, and it just creates an unnecessary problem that didn't need to be there in the
Yeah.
first place. Um, so in that type of situation, I prefer to be pragmatic in my approach and try to stop problems before they start. Because I'd much rather avoid a meeting and find an alternate way than having to deal with an upset wife that I hurt her feelings. Bottom line.
Right.
So
Yeah. And like I said, I learned it. I didn't know it. So I broke that rule several times before I figured out, okay, that's probably not maybe that is a rule.
yeah.
Maybe that is better.
And the other thing too is have that conversation with your spouse. You know what I mean? Make some clear guidelines and some clear boundaries. Maybe they are cool with it this under certain circumstances. Who knows? But that's a conversation you need to have. Don't just
Right.
assume. The next one I have here is, well, this is like a double one here nowadays. It's spatial distance. I'm going to include in that social distance because now with COVID. But prior to COVID, I think what we were talking about when it comes to spatial distance would be the close talkers. Those
Oh,
people that you're trying to talk to them and they just keep like, yeah. So what I'm trying to say to you is just like, all right, like cool, man. If I can see the back of your mouth, you're kind of
what
close.
what is that? What is that?
I don't know. I've never had that conversation with somebody who's done it because it's like this weird unspoken thing that
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody with, hey man, you're too close, back up. Unless you're fighting. If you're friends, I've never seen anybody like, dude. I've seen them move back slightly, but I've never seen
Right.
them bluntly just approach it and say, hey, you're too close to me, back up. I've never seen that. It's usually
I've never seen it done skillfully, I should say, because I've done it to friends. I mean, like, bro, back up, man. You're like right up in my face or something like that. But so I've said it like that, almost that exact same
sure,
way. And I've seen people because of COVID say it in a
yeah,
very unskillful way, like you're too close, you need to back off,
yeah,
and then be like, and you're sitting back going, damn.
yeah.
But it wasn't that the person was a close talker; it was just that they were that within 6 feet. Um,
So I think these are
but
two
you're
different
right.
topics, though.
So how do you do that? I mean, I don't know. Someone has to tell them, but if you're out there, do you know you're a close talker? I mean, has anybody ever said, "Oh, I'm a close talker"? I don't think I've ever heard anybody admit
Yeah,
that they're a
I don't
close talker.
know. Yeah, and like I said, I've never seen it addressed. To be honest with you, I've never seen somebody say, "Hey, you're kind of close." Never seen that, other than like friends say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Um,
Yeah, But they're
Yeah, I've
typically
never
drunk
seen.
when you're saying that. They're
Right.
hugging you, they're holding you like, bro, back off, man.
Yeah, I don't.
So,
But I do. The way I typically handle it, if somebody's a close talker, I'll either make sure there's a barrier between us, or I'll start to. I'll shift and I'll move. I'll do this. Something to signify, like, bro, like, there's like you're approaching my personal bubble here, man. Um,
yeah.
and I agree with you. I don't know what the need for because I'm not a close talker. I don't know what it. I don't know if it's
But how would we know, Trinity? How do we know?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
guess.
know. I don't know if close talkers know that they're close talkers. What if
Yeah, I don't
you
know.
and I are close talkers? What if I'm a close talker? Now I have an anxiety over it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really sure.
I don't
Um,
know.
but
If I am, somebody please tell me because I don't know it.
right? I don't feel that we're close talkers. At least the people who I've been interacting with in my life, who I felt were close talkers, I definitely have a much further space than what they consider that. But yeah, I mean, to some, we might be close talkers. I don't know. I
I don't
don't know
know.
if there's a universal distance that everybody accepts. Except for
Yeah.
today's world, there's a very universal distance. It was 6 feet, and now I think it's down to three. But
Carry around
uh,
a yardstick, something like that. Just
I've seen that guy with the pool noodles. He just walks around. Oh man. Anyways, so addressing the spatial distance first before we get to the social distancing.
yeah.
The spatial distancing, just be mindful, man. Be mindful of the people you're interacting with. Are they
Mm,
giving you nonverbal cues? I guess would be the safest way to go about it. Is
right.
the onus should be on you to adjust your distance. And so if you're looking at nonverbal cues, if they're backing away, if they're putting barriers between you, they're obviously uncomfortable. Now it could be uncomfortable because you're giving them a creeper vibe. It could be uncomfortable because you're too close. Who knows? But I think that's what getting a lot of people like Cuomo, for instance, in trouble at the moment is they're not reading social cues. Now,
Right.
granted, I think there's some people who just have nefarious, mindsets, and they're trying to do something they're not supposed to do. I'm not referring to those people. I'm referring to the innocent, I did not realize that I was offending you at this moment kind of situations. And I think in those situations, you got to just get better at reading the nonverbal cues that people are giving you. If they start to back up, if they start to put barriers, if they're adjusting, if they're giving you, their shoulder,
Right.
those are all signs of saying, hey, man, like I kind of either don't want to be in this conversation or I prefer for you to back up or whatever. They're showing you through their nonverbal abilities that something's not jiving right with them at the moment. And so it's up to you to read that and make adjustments. Maybe you change the topic, or even if you're afraid it's a topic, you can ask, "Hey, I'm sorry, am I making you uncomfortable?" And it's up to them at that point to say yes, and then, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then you stop.
Does,
Go ahead.
does this go along with physical touch?
No, I've got that coming.
All right. All right.
The next one I would say we address along with the spatial distancing in today's world is COVID. COVID just kind of if you weren't already anxiety ridden about in-person meetings and all the different rules, COVID just boom just put a bomb on top of it because now it can help and it can hurt, right? It can help because masks stayed away, it took away a lot of that. But it hurts in the sense of now you've introduced do I or don't I? And you know what I mean by that is some people care about masks, some people don't. Some people like it's a very weird kind of nuance, right? Because I wear I'm a mask wearer. I'm trying not to ruffle any feathers. I'm not trying to be that dude on a viral video somewhere. So I choose to wear a mask whenever I'm in the presence of other people who also want to wear masks. If I go into a building or a restaurant or a store or whatever it may be, mask goes on. If I'm interacting with people, mask goes on. However, if I'm in a room like we were last night and people start to take off their mask, I follow suit. I'm like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. In the same token, though, what I find odd is in drive-throughs, for instance. You don't wear your mask while you're driving by yourself in your car, but if you go to a drive-through, I don't know necessarily what the expectation is at that point to put it on or put it off. I don't know. I typically don't have it on when I go through a drive-through, and that's not a purposeful thing. That's just I just so happen to not be wearing it while I'm driving, and I don't really think of it. And nobody's ever said anything. Hey, can you put that on? The only time it's happened is when I've gone to pick up my wife or drop her off at the VA for whatever reason, and they do a check as I'm driving in, and they'll tell me to put it on. And then when I took my mother to go get her vaccination, when you got there, they come to you at your car to figure out where to send you, and they've asked me to put it on. Other than those two instances, I've never had anybody tell me to put it on or whatever. And then Simon just chimed in and says the drive-through worker sees tons of folks. Yeah, they see tons of them, and they're always wearing a mask as well. And maybe I should be or shouldn't be, I don't know. But that's the point, right? Is in-person meeting now with COVID introduced an entirely different set of expectations and rules and things of that nature. For me, the rule of thumb is if you're really unsure, nobody's going to get mad at you for wearing a mask. If you just keep yours on at all times, no matter what situation you're in, and nobody's going to care. I think that's the safest bet for you if you're an individual who is anxious about meeting people and doesn't know the rules and things of that nature. I think the safest rule of thumb is just keep it on at all times. When you're out talking, interacting with anybody, just keep it on. And I don't think anybody's really going to jump in your case about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I like to take it off. I don't
Yeah,
like
me
it.
too.
It's annoying.
I can't breathe in the damn thing.
I'm a nose breather, so because I'm a nose breather, as soon as my nose is covered, it's already I already have sinus issues, so it's already like permanently clogged. It's probably cocaine stuck in there from the '80s, as far as I know, but it just won't, I can't really breathe that good, and until I do that surgery where they put balloons in my nose and expand it, I have limited capacity. So to me, it just makes it harder. So I'm not trying to make a political statement. It's just I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And breath is important. Breathing is important. Plus, it just
Last I
makes you feel.
heard.
Yeah. So, if we're talking COVID, now if we're talking other stuff, I just think that go with the environment is what I typically do. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes I may push that environment a little bit, like last night you saw. Like I'll straight up ask, and I'll read the person. If they're kind of answering hesitantly, then I'll say I'll just keep it on. But if I see them like, oh, thank God, you know,
Yeah.
I had a meeting the other day with a chief medical officer of a large hospital, and he went through. I'm supposed to say, and he said what he said it. I'm supposed to say this, but, and then he opened it up, and I said, fine. I just ripped it right off, and as soon as I did it, everybody in the room goes, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And this is a chief medical officer of a hospital.
Yeah.
This is the same kind of individual that when they're on the news, they'll play the game that everybody's watching, because that's the reality. The reality is the Faucis and everybody of the world, they're not wearing them all the time if they don't have to. They're doing it for us, and I get it. So, it's important, people, to be safe, keep your distance, wear the mask, all that stuff, if we're doing the COVID conversation. But if we're just talking respect and all that, which I think was what we're really talking about, the respecting others, is to read the room and play the room properly. It's not the time to make like when we were at the radio set, it wasn't time to make a political statement. I simply wanted to do the show without the mask. Yeah. So we were allowed to do it. Now, when we took the pictures afterwards, if they would have said, hey, can we put the mask on to do the pictures, then that's fine. If not, guess what I do when I do these pictures now? So you may look at the picture and go, look at that. My daughter will get on me and she'll be like, you guys weren't social distance, Dad. You were hugging each other and you took a picture. Yeah, but what you don't know is that I know how to hold my breath for 1 full minute. What I do is I do it. I hold my breath. I don't breathe at all. Do the picture. Then I get out of the situation and then I take my breath. If you don't know how to hold your breath, that's on you. I know how to hold my breath. So I'm not affecting you or me unless you're not holding your breath.
Well said. Next one I have here, and this was about the physical touch stuff that you mentioned. Hugging, handshakes, and kisses. Now, once again, this is this is like a double-edged one right now, right? Because you have the normal, everyday kind of stuff, and then you got to add into it the COVID side of things, right? So with COVID, those are kind of out of the window at the moment, and I'm not sure some of them will ever return. I think for some people, handshakes are done; they will never return. I think there are others that will continue to do them. I can't help it, man. I can't help it. It's so ingrained in me that I still reach sometimes. I just, my whole life has been taught that, and that's, yeah. I try to do those fist bumps or elbow bumps now. I try to. If I'm consciously thinking about it, I will. But I also, I also don't. I do handshakes a lot. The hugs and the kisses, I think that those are typically reserved nowadays and during COVID for very close individuals. I don't think the random stranger stuff happens as much anymore. But we're going to talk pre-COVID, right? We're going to talk if and when this COVID thing ever dies down enough to where we go back to some semblance of normal. We would like to, cover these basic topics. So, I think this really more closely revolves. Well, we'll cover all three of them, I guess. Handshakes. I was always raised a handshake is how you kind of not necessarily measure up the other person, but that's how you measure them up. A good solid handshake, not too hard where you're trying to, hey, I'm a man, and not too wimpy to where it's like, dude, you're a noodle here. That's just a good solid firm handshake is how you kind of signify that, hey, I'm a confident individual and I'm here to do business. You're gonna respect me, I'm gonna respect you. Um, but the other one I think is a little bit more interesting. The kissing of the cheek and the hugging. That was, I'll say for my own self, that was a completely new, what the hell is happening thing for me. I know it's a very big cultural thing. A lot of my Hispanic friends, that's just part of what they do, and that's who I learned it from. Was growing up, you and I were just talking yesterday. Almost all my friends growing up were either black or Spanish, and so the Spanish people I would hang out with, I go to their friends and they'd be hugging, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like it just never made sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big person on invading my personal space or invading somebody else's personal space. And I think some of this, as you and I've talked in previously together in private, my size, I've had to I go by a different set of rules than most people because of my size. Um, because I'm a big dude, I'm very aware of offending other people. I'm very aware of making other people feel unsafe or uncomfortable, that kind of stuff, especially in the Me Too movement type things. So I am very anti just going in and just hugging somebody because it can feel forced on their end and I don't even know it. And so I typically just reserve to hey, now if they come in, I will, oftentimes reluctantly. And it's not that I don't like the person. I don't know. I've just never been that dude, man. It's all into just hugging random people. That's probably because who knows? That's probably a offshoot of my childhood, I guess. But for whatever reason, where I'm at currently in my life now, if you're not my daughters, my son, or my wife, I'm not typically a big hugger. I have done it. I've gotten more comfortable with it now as an adult than I was for many, many years. Part of that is just going through the flow of it, and also the work that we do when it comes to the in the addiction world. There are a lot of huggers in the addiction world, man. And I'm not talking about side bro hugs. I'm talking about full on embrace hugs. And I remember the first time it happened actually. I don't remember who it was. It was somebody we were talking to. It was a guy. I barely knew this dude. I think I just met him. It's one of your friends. We had something. He just came up and gave me this big hug, and I was like, okay, I guess we're hugging now. All right. And I guess that was my first moment of I guess I got to get used to this. So I'm not anti-hug, but I'm probably gonna never initiate it. And so I think that there's people out there who don't want those and don't like that.
Yeah.
Um, Only thing I can say to those people is you got two choices. The first choice is you can just suck it up and just realize, hey man, just play ball. It's not a big deal. It's not a
Yeah.
personal thing. It's just part of the game. Don't get offended. The other option you have is to be offended and make a point of telling people, no, I don't do that. And you're free to do either one. Just understand though that you depending on how you say it, and how you put it, you very well could offend the other person who's coming
Right.
in for the hug. Now you might not intend to do that, but they might have their own insecurity if they're not aware of the fact that there's people out there who just don't like it. So if you tell them, "Hey, I'm not interested. No, thank you," they could take offense to that. It's like going to somebody's house and they offer you food and you say no. Just understand that they might get offended by that. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that they shouldn't respect your wish to not be hugged at that moment, but
Right.
just address the reality that whether they should or shouldn't, they still might get offended, and it might create a little. So be prepared to either deal with some animosity or be able to explain why or whatever it may be. So to me, those are your two choices. I personally typically choose to just hug and get it over with. It's not that big of a deal. It's not worth my time to get, to make it a big deal. But the hugs and kisses are definitely an interesting dynamic. So go ahead, man. This is your culture, man. So let it out.
Well, you probably get the non-hugging thing from your mom because she hates my
Yeah,
hugs.
she hates hugs
I'm
from
such,
everybody.
yeah, I'm such a hugger, and it sucks for those of you that are non-huggers and you know me really well, because I go in for the hug and then you're like, oh, God, this guy hug me, and it reminds me of Dana's dad, my wife's dad. Every time I used to go to the house, I'd go to him and I'd shake his hand. That's what we do, and the story is that he would always look at Stella, my mother-in-law, and go, "Is he always going to do that?" Because he would have to stand up. He was a big guy, he was a large man, and he used to have to stand up out of his couch, shake my hand. So he was annoyed by it. He didn't like it. He'd prefer that I would just go, "Hey, how you doing?" and walk on. Now, being a Latino, a hugger kiss her. Now Dana has taught me don't do that, so I don't initiate the kiss anymore. Now, did I used to? If you're a female and I'd say hi to you, yeah, I'd go for the cheek, do the little kiss. You know, you're not really kissing though. By the way, it's
Yeah, you're
almost
just
like an air.
touching cheeks.
Yeah, it's an air kiss. But Dana, thought that was just awkward to do it to everybody. So I'm like, all right, the Caucasians don't do that, or I should say the we are Caucasian too, so that's just a
The
weird thing to say.
non-Hispanic.
The non-Hispanic people aren't used to that, and again, we see the Cuomo thing happening, and he says, well, that's what Italians do. Well, we can't use that as an excuse anymore because there's so many different cultures, and what's rude, what's not rude. I don't know, man. I guess if you want to make the creepy thing, it's a creepy thing. So I'm a kind of in a weird spot with that, to be honest with you. I think COVID kind of helped put me in a spot where, look, if you're not coming in and doing it to me, I'm probably not going to do it to you. If we've already done it before, then we'll probably continue to do it. But as far as hugging new people, I'm done with that probably. Unless you're already on the hug list, and Kathy, you're on the hug list, so no, not really. Kathy, I'll leave you alone. But for those already on the hug list, you're already on the hug list. Now, I've had people do this, Trinity, and you tell me, and it was also non-Hispanic people, older women, grab me by both and kiss me. Have you ever had that done?
Yes.
I've had several, and there's at least one or two that has grabbed me by the face and went in and kissed me right directly on the lips, and I'm kind of stunned, like,
what just happened?
Yeah, is that even allowed? Like, what did you
Yeah.
just do?
I've had that, and I've also had the dudes who want to do the kiss on the cheek. I've had it's usually older guys from like a different country. Well, how you doing? I'm just like, oh, okay, that's really awkward, but all right, I guess we're doing
old Italian friends or old Spanish, they'll still do that. But the lips thing is like that was new to me. I mean, so I guess I just looked at it like, all right, I'll just tell Dana, and maybe because of the age variation or whatever, Dana's cool with it. But it was just awkward. But I think that you have to be very careful now in the age of what we're seeing happening around the world. Be very careful. Not everybody gets our culture. Not everybody appreciates our culture. And some of you are just creeps. Some of you just use your cultures to creep on people, just like the hugging. I mean, I've been hugged, and then it's different. The hugging and then the groping is two different things. There's some of you that when you hug, you're actually feeling up a little bit, or you bring it in.
It's an embrace, not a hug.
Yeah, with females, what I try to do is hug in a manner where you don't touch the breast. Like where you kind of hug in a way where you don't bring them in. But some females, like they just bring you in, and you get to they're just And there's people that we know, Trinity, that when they hug you, it's a hug all the way down to, I can feel your kneecaps all the way to you. So you're doing it. I'm not doing it. So let's just be clear of that.
Yeah.
Because some of you are just that way. You just bring your entire pelvis and your chest and everything into a hug. And I just think that if you're a guy out there, don't initiate any of that stuff. If you're female doing it, look, I've always been the kind of guy that if you're touching me and feeling me up, I kind of just let it happen. I've always been the just, okay, do whatever you got to do as long as I'm not initiating, and then go about my business. But I don't know. That's always been my rule, man. So I've been abused a lot, I feel like, Trinity. More younger. Like now, nobody really wants to touch me. But back when I was younger, I felt abused all the time. Like everybody would take advantage. I think even my secretary would like grab my butt. She would do that. It just odd. But I never grabbed her butt. So I could never be in trouble.
Yeah, I've definitely had those situations happen, especially when I was younger, man. Back when I was in like really great shape and just working out all the time. Yeah, I would definitely have females, even random females, man, would grab butts and everything. It was weird.
Right. But I was never in shape, so I don't know why they grabbed me, Trinity, man. I don't have the muscles you have, yet they still grope me. I don't have your sides or anything, so I don't know why they grabbed my butt. I don't even have a butt.
But in a professional stance, though, kind of the same thing I was talking about earlier when it comes to the meeting of the opposite sex when you've got a significant other at home. I kind of go about that same way, all right? I go about it just as I try to avoid it. I'm not going to initiate it, but I'm not going to be disrespectful. I view if somebody does do it, and I know it's in a cultural kind of way, I'll do it. But as with you, I don't initiate it. Mainly because of that, man. You got to be really aware nowadays, man. Meaning, just understand that everything you do in today's world very well could be under a microscope, and it very well could come back to you.
Yeah, misinterpreted.
For example, The ninth woman came out against Cuomo, and there's a picture of him kissing the chick. I don't know, like, yeah, one still shot from that angle, it doesn't look good. However, if you're there in person, it could be just, oh, how you doing? Like, it could be very, very innocent and no big deal. But a picture, that's all we're going to see, and that's all we have to take,
Right.
and it doesn't look
Right.
good. And so
Yeah,
you've got to be
and
aware of
and,
that.
and by the way, there's a difference. Like a Latino kiss is an air kiss on the side, hands away. An Italian is different. Italian does grab you by because the guys look, old Italian guys do it to me too. They will kiss me. They will grab me, but they grab you like this, and then they give you a
Yeah,
mwah. They give you a strong. The old Italian guys do that to men and women.
yeah,
They really do. Now, I'm not defending the dude. I'm not saying he's not a creep because I don't know enough of the situation. But I'm just saying that in today's world, I think you're exactly right, Trinity. We need to help people understand that in today's world, look, if it's Italian on Italian, do it. Just like me, if it's all Latinos and we're all talking Spanish, the kisses are everywhere. We're
right.
all kissing and we're all doing that stuff. But in a mixed area, it's not happening.
Right on. So for the sake of time, moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
Attire. Attire. So what do you wear? This is an interesting one, and this is the one that I don't necessarily agree with everybody on. You and I've had our own conversations on this one. So what you wear if you're going to meet somebody face to face, I think it has an awful lot to do with what the expectation is going to be, what the meeting's for, who you're meeting, where you're meeting, those kinds of things. Um,
Yeah.
for those of anybody who's been with me more than 5 minutes knows I am a sandal. I live in Fuller. It's 90 something degrees. I'm a big dude. I get really hot. I've got large arms and body, so I don't like to squeeze into stuff if I don't have to. So I am a tank tops, shorts, sandals kind of dude. It's about comfort. I live in Florida. That's what we do. And if at all possible, that's what I'm going to wear. And pretty much everybody who knows me expects that. And I don't work in a business to where I have to go to work in a suit and things of that nature. Having said that, I will dress up in certain situations. In my dress up, I usually try to stay on brand. I'll have a T-shirt with the Now Matters More, jeans, something like that. However, if I'm going, I try to avoid situations where I can't wear at least that. The only time I've been in like slacks or a suit type thing was when I went to my buddy's sister's wedding. Other than that, I can't tell you. I got married in jeans and a shirt, man. So it's like, but having said that, like if I had a court date tomorrow, I'm gonna wear a collared shirt and and things of that nature. So I think each individual has to understand what you can and can't get away with. I guess is what I'm getting at. Like
Right.
when you and I go to places, I know that you're going to be the one that's expected to be dressed up. I know
Yeah.
that they're not expecting me to walk in like a thong or something like that, but they're not expecting me to show up in a suit. That's just not the role that I've played in all their lives. But I'm trying to be respectful of everybody else's time as well. And so depending on what it is, I will dress up or down accordingly. And I think every person has to do that as well. And because oftentimes, whether you view it that way or not, because I don't, a lot of times they view it as a respect for them and their time, right? And so, if like I wouldn't tell my daughter to go to a job interview, wearing sweatpants and like I don't know, whatever kids wear when they're playing or whatever. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend her to show up with something respectful, something depends on what job she's going for. Only because, yeah, you're going to be judged based upon how much effort it looks like you took to get ready that day. Like, if you cared enough, did you care enough about what we're getting ready to do to put effort into how you look?
Mm.
We can argue all day long whether that's fair or not, but it is what it is. The way I think I get away with some of it is A, what we do for a living, what's expected, and also if you can get past the piercings and the tattoos, my shirt probably isn't going to be that big of a deal. It's the piercing and tattoos usually is a good buffer for whoever I'm interacting with. But like I said, I've had this discussion before. I've had this discussion with hundreds of times. The bottom line is, regardless of your personal feelings on it, just understand that not everybody might feel the same way you feel, and it very well could open or close doors for you. And if you're okay with that, then do your thing. If you're not okay with that, then adjust accordingly.
Yeah. You.
Oh, well, how convenient you froze right then. That is awesome. I love the fact that you're getting ready to hold me accountable and you froze. I promise you guys I didn't do that on
There's.
purpose. Go ahead, you're unfrozen.
That's funny. You and I definitely disagree on this topic. This is one of those where, uh, just just the way I think, the way my upbringing was, whether it be culturally, whether it be family, whether it just be age, I don't know. I'm not going to attribute it to anything other than the way I believe about it is you dress for the occasion, dress for the location, you dress for the person that you're going to be. That dress to impress thing is definitely part of my upbringing. Um, and so I don't want to dress a certain way at times, but it's a sign of respect to the place and the person that I'm seeing. It's just like when you go to court. The only reason you dress a certain way in court, it's for the judge. When I see people come with t-shirts and jeans to court, um, it's just hard for me to even. It took a long time. You're the first person that I've accepted differently because of all that. Prior to meeting you, prior to hanging out with you as a friend, and prior to us having these conversations, I would have definitely passed judgment on anyone that did the things that you do, and I probably still do. The only one that I don't pass judgment on is you, and that's because we've had this conversation. Um,
Sure.
but I like what you said. You said, look, if you're willing to deal with the repercussions from it, then that's it.
Yeah.
Deal with the repercussions. But here's the thing: you probably don't know the repercussions.
Yeah.
You don't know the doors that got closed on you because you didn't dress for the occasion, or that people considered you disrespectful because of a certain situation.
Yeah.
I even I think Tyrus, who you'll see on Fox News all the time, does a lot of the similar things you do. But he goes as far as to wear a hat backwards while on, doing a show, news coverage. I personally think it's a sign of disrespect. I think it's playing too deep into, well, this is me. You're gonna have to accept me. Well, everybody's me and would like the world to accept them what they do. But if everybody did that, then just think of what that looks like. Have you ever been to a McDonald's or a Burger King or something like that, just a regular fast food restaurant, where the person took the opportunity to take the uniform they're wearing and then do it the way they would wear street clothes? It just doesn't look right and tight. You know what? I'm paying you if I own the McDonald's, so you got to represent my McDonald's. And I think you and I had that conversation early on where I said, Trinity, you're the president of the foundation, so you represent the Now Matters More Foundation when you go do that. So just you're not just Trinity Phillips, you're not just the Dharma Guy, you're the president of the foundation. So be mindful of that. Now, whatever that means to you, that's what it means to you. But I think that this is definitely one of those topics where we all have a different opinion, and I don't take it so serious as I used to. In other words, I will not force my opinion on other people.
Right.
Yet I do definitely have opinions on it, and
Yeah.
how I think you should be. Now, whether you choose to abide by it or do something different, that's completely on you, and I allow you to be a freedom of speech in your way, and so I'm okay with that. You're not
And
my employee. You know what I mean? If you were my
right.
employee, well, then that's different. I can have rules on that, and whether you like it or not, that's too bad.
Well, and I want to address Richard's comment. He says, "But Trinity, aren't you asking people to see things your way instead of a cultural norm that has been that way for centuries?"
Yeah.
I would say no. I'm not expecting that because I'm okay if it doesn't go my way because of that. To give you an example, I had a grant one time through the Winter Park Health Foundation here locally. I got a grant as a trainer to go into this local church to go in and kind of train them, help them, get a healthy lifestyle, things of that nature. And it was brought up in the very beginning that I should cover up, my tattoos because I was going into, a religious setting, a church setting that they may or may not be okay with that as far as first impressions, things of that nature. And it was floated in the very beginning that I should kind of adjust my clothing or my attire to fit that place. And I told them, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just not who I am. I've done these. This is who I am. This is part of who. This is how I conduct myself. And if they're not going to be cool with the tattoos, then they're definitely not going to be cool with anything else that I bring. And I'd rather miss the opportunity. It just wasn't worth it to me to
But
adjust. And it turns out, as it usually does, nobody cared. They actually were really cool with it, and it helped. It created a bond with us, and I still talk to these people to this day. For whatever reason, and I'm not saying, and that's the other thing too, is you got to understand some people can get away with stuff that others can't. For whatever reason, I've been fortunate enough in my life that more often than not, and like you said, I don't know the opportunities that would arrive, but
yeah,
uh,
yeah, you
um,
won't.
like even with the tattoos, there's been so many people say I don't really like them, but on you they look fine.
Wait, you keep saying tattoos though. Wait, I got to stop you there
Well,
because you
that's
keep
my
saying
first thing.
tattoos. This is 2021. For the last 20
Yeah,
years, it's actually more individual to not have tattoos than to have tattoos.
Sure.
Every person age 35 and below has a tattoo, pretty
A
much.
tattoo,
So
yes. But I've got
yeah,
them on my neck.
well,
I got them on
whatever.
my
But a
hands.
lot of people have multiple tattoos. So,
Yeah.
so you're using a 1990 conversation or argument in a 2021
No,
world.
not at all.
Everybody has tattoos. There's
No.
nothing
I
unique
think
about
you,
tattoos.
because you don't have them and you're so used to seeing them on me, I think you underestimate
No, no, no,
how
no, no. No, I
upfront
see
they
them
are
on
to
everybody.
so many people.
No, I see them on everybody. Everybody has them.
Yeah.
Everybody has them. Even my
Okay.
daughter wants one. Everybody has them.
Sure, but I'm telling you, as somebody that has them, they're still very much in the forefront of people's mind when I'm out and doing
I
things.
think
They're
so.
very much seen. Absolutely.
I disagree. I think we're talking more about clothing than
Um,
tattoos. And
well, yeah, but I'm using my tattoos as an example of if you're okay with them, the fact if I have a collar or not, you're not going to give a shit. And if you do, I don't really want to do business with you.
yeah, again, I think yeah, I agree with what Richard said. I think you're asking people to see things your way instead of
No,
a norm.
no.
I think
And
it's
asking them to see it my
appropriate.
way would mean I'm making them do something that they don't want to do. Like I'm not telling them they
Well,
have to do business with me or they have to hire. They could choose not to, and they're totally allowed. Like I knew, for instance, the day I got visible tattoos, that I knew that half my job prospects in the future would be cut off. Whether I agree with that or not, whether visible tattoo had any bearing on whether I could perform the functions of a job or not, I have no bearing whatsoever. I knew that that would cut me out. So same thing with a tie or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, man. If there's somebody out there who is so stringent and so focused on the fact if I have, a collar or not, I don't want to. That tells me that you're gonna be a pain in the ass to work with. You're gonna be so stickler on things that I'm just not really. There's other people out there. It's not like you have the only opportunity that exists on the planet. Maybe your opportunity just isn't right for me. That's fine, and I'm not right for you. So I'll find
yeah,
somebody else with an opportunity. So for me, that's
yeah,
how I'm not expecting anybody else to cater to where I'm at. I'm giving them the free choice, and I'm just exercising my own free choice. And so far in my life, it's not worked out horribly. So I mean, it is what it
yeah. I
is.
don't. That's not a black white issue like that. So I don't think it's that cut and dry with that. I think that like when I go golfing, I'm wearing a golf shirt right now. I don't typically wear golf shirts.
Right.
I wear golf shirts on the golf course, and for our foundation, I'll wear this kind of shirt. But I'm more of a button-up shirt guy or a t-shirt
Is
kind
that
of guy.
that's a reunion one? Okay.
Reunion, yeah. This is where we're
Yeah.
having the golf tournament this year. So they gave me this shirt last time we had our tournament at Reunion. So I'm wearing it today to promote Reunion. I'll wear a collared shirt on the golf course. It's out of respect to the place. It's out of
Well,
respect
that's a
to the
rule.
game. Whatever. But I wasn't. I guess I accept it as a respect issue. And again, I think that a lot of this has to do with also I'm a son of a military brat.
Right.
I am a military brat, the son of a two-time Vietnam veteran, lifer, 25-year command sergeant major. There's just some things you do out of duty and respect, and that's ingrained in my brain now. Whether that's hogwash and BS, and I drank the Kool-Aid, okay, but I'm cool with that Kool-Aid. So I view this subject. I view it much similar to standing up, to saluting, to if I've gone to a Muslim church. I've gone to a Muslim church, and I didn't go inside that Muslim. And I know it's not called a church, by the way, so you don't have to get on me.
Mosque.
Yeah, I've gone to a Muslim mosque, and I did everything I was asked to do. They told me to go into the bathroom, and we did this cleansing thing where you
Sure.
breathe real hard out of your mouth. You wash your face. You take your shoes off. I had to sit a certain way on my knees. I did all of that. I didn't go in there and says, "No, man, I'm just me. It's just who I am. So you're just gonna have to accept me who I am. And if you don't want me in your mosque, then I'll leave your mosque." I didn't do that.
I
That's
think
that's
that's a
not
false
respect.
equivalency,
No,
but
no,
I hear
no,
you.
no, 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 no. Wait, hold on. No, I see that as the exact same
No,
equivalency.
I see that as a
What
false
I'm saying
equivalency.
is, I when in Rome, I do as Romans. So I've done that in mosques. I've done that in the Jewish temples. I've done that in Catholic church. I
I
don't go
would
to a
too if I
Catholic
went to those
church with
places.
flip flops. I would never. I like wearing flip flops now, but I wouldn't go to Catholic church in flip flops. So in other words, all I'm saying is that you take that lesson that you learned as a kid in those areas, and I apply it to everywhere else in front of judges, churches. I don't think a priest deserves more respect than a guy's business. I don't think that a judge deserves more respect than another person's business. I do it business appropriate, person appropriate, all the way across the board. I don't give just some people that kind of respect. I don't give just some locations that kind of respect. I give all locations that kind of respect because I am adaptable like water and I adapt to the situation for the situation. And that's all I'm saying. We disagree clearly, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You're allowed to think how you think. However, I'm just simply saying that I view that 100% of giving myself, thinking less of myself and thinking more of the occasion and the other person, and that's a
Sure.
whole respect thing that I'll do.
Yeah,
Take the
I can
lid
respect
off
that.
when you're indoors. Take the lid off when they're playing the national anthem. You take your
We're
hat
not going to have
off.
that.
All
We're not
that
going to have
stuff.
that
All that stuff.
conversation because last time that one turned into an argument, so we're good on
Well,
that one.
respect is a word that blankets a lot of things, and that's just what it
Yeah,
is.
but everybody's definition of what that is different. So, but as far as the reason why it says a false equivalency is because when I go to the golf course, you'll see every picture every year we've gone. I have a collared shirt on. I have shoes on. So
Yeah.
those are the rules of what we're at. You know, I do that. But there's a difference, I guess, in a place where there's an established rule set that you follow, as opposed to it's a decision as a choice. You don't really have much of a choice in some of those places.
But
This is in order to come in here and do what we want. This is what we do here.
but Trinity, the rule is because of respect. It's not a
It
rule
doesn't
because it's
matter
a
what it's
rule.
because.
It's no, but yes, it does. What they're trying to teach you the respect of the game. That's why you don't talk during certain times. That's why you don't stand in certain places when people are playing. That's why when they're about to hit, you stand still and don't talk. Those are they're rules because it's a respect thing for the game and the players playing the game. That's why it's a rule. It's a
Maybe.
respect thing first. Then it becomes a rule because people they need to hear it as a rule to respect it. They don't just do it
Maybe.
out of respect. Not everybody has the same definition of respect, like you said, so they make it a
Yeah.
rule, but really it's about respect.
Maybe. And that also could be why golf is dying. Maybe. Who knows? Richard said, "Am I understanding you correctly? You want everyone to respect everyone else, but one of the easiest and most accepted forms of respect coming in professional, personal appearance is not acceptable." No, it is. Each person, they can. That's what I'm saying. They have the choice to do business with somebody or not. Much like if you don't go to the golf course without a collared shirt on, they have the right to tell you to leave. So, and you can't get upset. Like if you show up wearing, flip flops and a bathing suit, and they tell you don't come in, you don't have a right to be upset. Like, what'd you expect? That's what they're, and
Stores,
so that's the
stores used to
agreement.
say that. Stores used
Huh?
to say no shoot,
Yeah,
no shirt, no
yeah,
shoes, no service.
and they still do
Good
sometimes.
luck with that on the beach, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, and they still
Florida
do.
is Florida is the only place that I've ever come where that rule doesn't apply.
Yeah,
Every other state I've lived in, every other place I've been in, no
sure.
shoot, no shoot, no whatever. You know what I'm talking about. No shoes, no shirt,
No
no service.
shoes, no shirt, no service.
But here in
Uh,
Florida, that doesn't apply.
But it's the same thing. Is essentially all I'm saying is if you're going to choose to live a certain way, then you got to understand that there's going to be some positives and some negatives that come your way, and you can't be upset about either one.
yeah.
Uh, um, if that's once again, like I choose to speed sometimes, right? Like I don't always obey the speed limit. And I've gotten speeding tickets before in my past. And you know what? Every time they pull me over, I'm courteous, I'm respectful. I take my ticket. You know why? Because I was speeding. Like I'm in the wrong here. I chose to do something that I'm not supposed to do, or that is frowned upon for whatever reason. And it's their job to give me a ticket. It is what it is. If you don't want it, then don't speed. So same thing. If you want to be looked at a certain way, you have like I don't agree with the respect should be based upon how much material is located on my shirt or not. I don't think that has anything to do with respect, but I'm aware that other people do. And I'm aware that if I choose to not wear a collar, they're going to potentially look at me as disrespectful and not want to interact. I'm okay with that. Not everybody is okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, then you need to play the game. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to. We're all allowed to have difference of opinions, but you can't force others to view it the way you do. Meaning
I,
you got to
I
allow them to view it that way.
I think when you're the size that you are and you look the way you do, people have just not told you the truth a lot of times. I think
Maybe
that's the real. And I'm your friend that tells you the truth. So I think that's the,
your version of the truth.
well, no, what I'm saying is I think a lot of people feel the way I do, but they won't tell you because of certain factors that you carry. The world treats bigger guys differently than smaller guys. That's just the way it is.
Sure,
So just like Dana's world is a blonde, blue-eyed, pretty woman is a way different world than my
sure.
world.
I would agree with
Those are
that.
just realities. But there's still some certain, like Richard was saying, cultural norms that you're able to break because of your size. Because guys won't tell you, people won't tell you.
Maybe. I'll take my privilege then. Like, what's the
Yeah,
point of being big
it,
if you can't use it?
amen to that, brother. I don't fault you for
I'm
that.
just gonna say, man. I didn't go to the gym and work out so I can not be looked at that way. Like, of course, well, that comes with it.
Yeah,
Next one we have here, other than attire, because we are over, but hey, we run the place, so we can do what we want.
yeah,
Next one is time and place. I think this is a big one right here. I think this is a huge, huge one. Time and place meaning, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, things of that nature, right? Um, Once again, with my wife, right? If somebody were to ask me for a meeting, especially if it was a meeting that I had to go to, and it was with a like an attractive woman, and I had to have this meeting, I'm absolutely not going to have it at 8 o'clock at like a steak restaurant. Not going to happen, right? So those are the things that we're talking about as far as time and place, right? Like there's certain things. I think to me the easiest one that I've seen over the years that's a very I don't know, like almost non-committal, right? Like if you don't really want to have this long, drawn-out meeting with anybody, or if you coffee, that's what most people go to nowadays. Hey, yeah, let's go out for coffee, because I think it's an understood. It's going to be at any time of the day, usually somewhat morning,
yeah,
and it's expected to be like a 20, 30 minute. Let's just grab a coffee and go. But if it goes well, you can both sit there for as long as you want. But it's built in, it's like your own get out of jail free card almost, right? There's a built in, hey, I can leave after 20 minutes and still be
yeah,
respectful. Or if it's
yeah.
going well, we can stay forever. And it's very nonchalant. It's usually in a relatively public place. So it's an interesting one. But I think time and place is important because, uh, you know, because I've had people back when I used to do a lot more meetings and other things that I would do in my past as far as work is concerned. I've had people ask me, "What was that?"
That's my dog. He's been making that noise lately. He's
Wow.
old. I got
Okay.
you, Kyle. Right?
I've
He
actually
sounds
had
like an
people.
old man clearing his throat.
Yeah, he did.
Ah,
I've
that's what
actually had
the
people
dog.
ask me to meet at like Rachel's and stuff. And for those of you who are not local, Rachel's is a strip club that we have here. And as a dude, at that time, especially single, I didn't care. I was like, all right, sure. But it is a weird place to have meetings. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's like, whoa, like you need to understand who you're meeting with. I get like,
Yeah.
so time and
What's the
place
purpose
is
of the meeting?
absolutely, yeah, time and place is absolutely important. What are your thoughts on time and place, man?
My thinking is those kind of meetings that you just mentioned right there is because you want something from the person. So if my job is to sell them something, I see I'm not a salesperson, but if my job was to sell somebody something, yeah, and that, I would tell Dana, I would have a conversation with Dana and says these are the reasons I'm doing these things, and I'll tell you why
Yeah,
I say that. Because when I had the record label back in my early 20s and mid 20s, thank God I don't live that lifestyle anymore. I don't really always like the guy that I know that I was in that time because I was very conflicted. Half of me was a
right.
counselor, and half of me had other businesses that just were very different to the lifestyle that I was going into as a married man, as a respectable person in society. So with the record label, I did go to those places, uh,
Of course,
the strip clubs, because they play our music, and those strip clubs played our music, and the girls played our music, and they got guys to buy the music, and it just went on from there.
sex
Um,
sells, man.
yeah, it did, and so but I had to make a choice whether I wanted to continue down that road or not. Now, I personally got out of the music industry because I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it long term and be the man that I wanted to be. So that was real important to me. So I think what you're saying is very valid. Um, I wanted to be a better man, to be the kind of man that Dana would say, "This is awesome," right? Not the kind of
Right.
man that was a fixer upper all the time, and I was a fixer upper. And Dana had to teach me what was respectful to her, what was respectful to the vows, what was respectful to marriage. And it wasn't that I was breaking them in a way that I can't talk about openly right now. It was just that I didn't understand where that boundary was in those early
Right.
years. And so uh, instead of just being like, "That's just the way I am, Dana, you're just going to have to deal with it," I'd be like, "Really? What's wrong with that place? Why can't I go there?" And she would go like, "Well, because of this." And I'm like, "Oh, well, then what if you go with me?" And that's a whole different ballgame. So those. Sorry. I had to keep on having those lessons. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I think that really depends on where you're at as a person, and ask yourself, is this really something I need to do? Now I get invited to things now that to me I look at it and go like, I don't think I'm going to gain much out of that thing. I already have
Right.
the relationship. We can do other things. So you guys
Yeah.
just go ahead and go do whatever you got to do, and I'll catch you on the other side. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But also, I have the privilege. My privilege is that I'm an old man that's been around a long time, married over 27 years, and in recovery over 30. So I can pretty much dip out of almost any situation and be okay with it in those scenarios is
Right.
what I'm saying. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lose those relationships over that, over not going to the strip club or not going to certain
Yeah.
places or not having certain meetings.
Yeah. I think that's really the takeaway is just time and place shouldn't be an afterthought, right? Time and place should be part of your concept of who am I meeting, what am I hoping to get of it, who am I trying to represent, that kind of stuff. I
The
think time and
tool.
place, yeah, yeah. Uh, asking somebody to drinks, a nightcap somewhere sends off a different signal than hey, let's grab coffee tomorrow. Those are two different vibes that you're going to be sending. So just be aware of time
Well,
and place.
that's a very important. So like if and I've been asked that. I've had women in the industry of treatment go like, well, I'll be in town, and instead of saying coffee, they'll say dinner, and so dinner and coffee are two different things.
Yes,
Dinner, not only is dinner more inappropriate to me, it's
I
more
agree.
intimate.
I
But
agree.
I still won't even do the coffee. I'll find a way to navigate my way out of that scenario too. And I'm not trying to be rude. If you're watching this or listening to this, and you've been one of these people, I'm sorry. It's just that it's usually I'm very upfront and I'll explain it to you. I have no problem saying it. So if I didn't, I'm saying it now. But what I'm saying is, for those of you that do that, so let's say part of your business is you do have to meet the opposite sex, and you will have to take that meeting. Please know that dinner and breakfast, not breakfast, because when you say breakfast, what did you spend the night? No, coffee and dinner are two different variant things. Try to do daytime meetings over nighttime
Yeah,
meetings. If you
lunch.
have face to face, if you have to meet somebody of the opposite sex face to face, do daytime over nighttime. Do public rather than private. Do a restaurant that your wife or husband is doesn't really. Don't pick a restaurant they've been dying to go to. The
Yeah,
biggest mistake you can make, they've been saying, oh, I can't wait to go to that restaurant, that restaurant, that restaurant. You don't go with your wife or husband, and then all of a sudden you took somebody else there. Oh, brother, you
yeah.
want to
That's a
shoot
bad
yourself in the head.
idea.
Yeah, bad idea.
Next one I have here with face-to-face meetings, and this is a similar rule to the other avenues of communication, and that is gossip. Just don't do it. It's that simple. Don't do it. Uh, uh, Gossiping, it never ends well. It says a lot about you, like because I don't know, maybe you don't. I'm sure you do actually, because I know you well enough now. If I'm
Fun.
talking with somebody and they're gossiping to me about anybody else, the first thing that tells me is when I'm not around them, they're gossiping about me. And if you
Yes,
think
sir.
otherwise, I got a prayer
Sir.
I'll tell you.
Yes,
Because
sir.
if they're gossiping to you about a bunch of other people, rest assured, I promise you, and I'll bet whatever I can on this, they're gossiping about you to other people. So just don't do it. Don't participate in it. It's if it happens and you're not around, it's none of your business. It's that simple. And I know it's hard, right? Because we're humans,
Right.
man. We love drama. We're hardwired to just love drama. And hey, guess what? Such and such. It's so hard to just be like, nah, I'm good, man.
Yep.
But I encourage you when it's happening, say to yourself, "This is gossip. I don't want to hear it." And then say to them, you don't have to be rude about it. Hey, don't gossip. Just change the subject. It's really simple.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Hey, what about this? And just change the subject. After a
Yes.
few times, they'll stop. They'll either get the hint or they'll feel that they've already expressed enough, and they'll move on with you. They won't
Yes.
make a point, because just gossip. Nobody wins, man. Because first of all, you're only getting that person's perspective on things. You don't know all the nuances, all the truth. You don't know the other side of things. Uh, uh, if you're listening to the gossip, you don't know if that person then is going, well, I told such and such this, and they agreed with me, and it's going to come back and but nobody wins with gossip.
Right.
Just don't. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable to be honest with you, man. Look, I don't want to know certain information about certain people. I just don't, man. I one of the saddest things, Trinity, that I have, and it goes along with some of the stuff that we're talking about today. Some of the saddest moments I think that I've experienced as a man moving forward in my career, in my business, is learning too much about certain people that I wish I didn't have. Because being a guy, the way I talk, the way I act, the way I look, whatever it is, people pass judgment for whatever reason.
Sure.
And and then they open up and say things like, especially the guys that are cheating on their women, um, or the women that are cheating on their men. I didn't want to know that, because now I think differently about you, and I didn't want to know that. I didn't want to feel that way about you. I don't want to know that information. So it goes along with what you're saying, because if you know something about somebody else, I don't want to know their information either. I don't know it to be true. You're only telling me it to be true. It's not information that's meant for me to know. I want to know people for how I know them, not for how someone else knows them. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%.
It just affects the whole deal. I'd rather not. I don't want to know your secrets, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless
When I
you're
was,
my client, then that's different.
well, of
That's a
course,
different
they're
scenario.
paying you
Let's
then.
let's make that clear.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was younger, I didn't care as much, but now that I'm older, I've got kids, I'm married. Like who I want to be is a lot different than who I used to be. And I'm not going to judge you. With whatever you're doing, I'm not in your shoes. I'm not in your life. I'm in no position to dictate to you how you should live. Now, if you come to me ask me advice, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Um, but like you, I'm good not knowing, man. Like I'm just good because, like you said, like if I found out that somebody who I really look up to and respect, if I find out they weren't living the way that they present themselves as,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
dude, it's kind of devastating. It's kind of like, really, man? Like, damn, dude. Like, I don't want to look at you in a down light. I don't want to look at you and feel let down or disappointed. And maybe that
Yeah.
says more about me and my expectations, but I'm okay with that. Let me live in my world. You know what I mean? Let me have my false expectations. Don't ruin
Well,
that for me.
it's how I learned how to have mentors for a specific reason rather than
Yes.
making mentors be so broad. That's really
Yes.
how I learned the lesson because certain mentors that I had early on in my life, I had these, since he was a mentor for this, then I made him a mentor just for everything, right? And then you realize, that's probably not the right mentor for relationships. It's probably not the right mentor for finances,
Yeah.
but it is a good mentor for this. And so what I learned early on is if you're going to look up to somebody and have them as a mentor for you, which is great, everyone should have one, but you should have one for each specific kind of part of your life rather than making one person the mentor for all things of your life.
Yep.
Because then if they fail to meet your expectation in one area, you don't want it to destroy the mentorship they have in other areas of your life. They're still good mentors for those other areas, just not that one.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next one. This one's gonna be probably pretty brief, I believe. Subjects to avoid, man. Growing up for me, I was always taught don't talk about religion, politics, or abortion. Those were the three
Yeah.
things that I was always told growing up don't talk about. And
Yeah.
to an extent, I agree with that list. All I'll say about subjects is understand the company you're in and understand the purpose of why you're there. In other words, if you're a bunch of friends hanging out, just chilling, it's probably not the best time to bring up some really controversial stuff. Like that's not the goal of why everybody got together. If everybody got together, yeah. If everybody got together just to relax and have a good time, then keep your subjects to relax and have a good time.
Yeah.
So just understand who you're with, what is or isn't appropriate, and the good rule of thumb is if you're not sure, don't. It's that simple. If you're not sure if this is a good time to bring up how you feel about the Floyd case, maybe you shouldn't bring it up. Save that for another time. Wait till it's already been talked about and interject, right? Because you don't want to be that person. It's like everybody's
Yeah.
kind of hanging out. So, hey, what do you think about racism? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, bro. Like, I wasn't really trying to have that talk right now. Um, and I know it's hard because in today's world, there's so many controversial things. There's so much division and there's so much opinions. But understand there's a time and a place to have specific conversations, man. And I'm not trying to dictate to anybody how they should or shouldn't talk, but just understand that even though you might be willing to talk about something at the moment, A, they might not be willing to talk about it, or B, you might not be ready to hear what they have to say about it. And so just understand who you're with and what the goal of why you're meeting before you start to choose certain subjects. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, in our family we have a thing called we have a secret word. And when I talk family, I'm talking about the ten delgados, canela. So if the conversation is going somewhere where it can blow up into argument or fighting, somebody in the room will say canela, canela, and that means shut it
Right?
down. It's not going good. And then usually the person that's really doing it is no, 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 and they'll try to keep going. No, no, canela, cabrón, canela, and then
Yeah.
what I mean. So I think it's good to have a safe word. That if you're a couple, it's also good to have that kind of safe word. Not for those other reasons, but,
Pineapple.
but yeah, for the reason that I just said. In other words, if you see your loved one kind of going in the wrong direction in a conversation, just give him a hint, give him or her a hint, just like let's get out of this
Right.
conversation. Not because you don't want to look again. This happens when you do business and socializing with the same people. You risk something,
Yes.
so you stay out of those conversations because it can cost you financially.
Yes.
Um, so when you socialize and do business with some people, you better know before you do social interactions with the same people you do business with, make sure that you're okay with finding out whatever you're about to find out.
Yep.
But if you're the kind of person who, if they like Trump or if they like Biden, you're going to defriend them whichever way, then you stay out of those conversations. If you can't handle the truth, don't bring them up. But if
Yeah.
you can handle it, then like what Trinity said, if they start, then you can say something. But it's almost like a close talker. You just don't want to walk in there and go, "So, what do you think about this?"
Yeah. Uh,
Unless you're already boys. Like Trinity and I can do it because we already talked about everything.
yeah.
So I think, I think I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Well, I was reading the comments here. I'm gonna put Richard's up, and Simon basically just Simon literally just answered it for me because that's exactly what I was going to answer. Richard's comment was, "I disagree. The intention and manner in which you approach the subject matter is the important thing, but those issues need to be talked about publicly." To an
I do
extent,
agree with that, though.
yeah,
I
to
do
an
agree with
extent, I
that to
agree with you.
a degree.
To a
Mhm.
degree, I agree with you. But if I'm just trying to go out and get like a sub from Publix, man, I'm not really trying to break any new ground right now. I just want to get my sub and go home. Or if Louis and I are trying to talk business and we're trying to get something done, I don't really need to address all these other issues at the moment. Or if I just if if somebody introduced me to a new friend or something like that, I'm just getting to know them. I don't need to know their feelings on all these different subjects at the moment. It's not imperative to what I'm trying to do, number one. And number two, as Simon pointed out, 99% of, and I'm going to go with that because it sounds like it seems extreme, but it's probably right. 99% of the time, you're not changing the other person's opinion. It's just two people spouting their opinions, trying to convince the other one, and then typically somebody gets upset and they go away. It doesn't matter how you do it because you're going to have the yeah, but. And the yeah, but is yeah, but so they're acknowledging your opinion, but you're wrong because of this. And at that point, it's just going back and forth, and nothing is going to get solved. No new ground is going to be covered. And so that's what I mean by there's a time and a place, right? Because, dude, you've seen our shows. We have no problem, but even we decided to create a whole different show called We the Middle. Because as we're talking about on Dharma Time, this is supposed to revolve around a spiritual thing to bring inner peace to people and learn how to deal with life. Maybe that person doesn't want to hear our thoughts on Cuomo or our thoughts on Trump. It's a different mindset. It's a different time and place. And so I agree with you. Those things should be talked about, but I disagree in the sense that they don't always have to be brought up at all times. There's a time and a place
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
appropriate.
I think both things are true. I think Richard and Simon are both right. I think that subject matter. I don't think any subject is taboo
No,
in our
I
first.
agree.
Um, but I think who you're talking to does matter. Um, you brought up three things there. And one of those it was abortion even. Like you don't want to probably bring that up with somebody who just had one or is considering one, or something like that. You know what I mean? And so um that's a very personal thing to a person, right?
Yep.
Even more so than the other two that you mentioned, more so than religion, more so than because I think a lot more people are talking about religion and a lot more people are talking about politics than ever before. But that third one you mentioned is probably
Yep.
still one that really hurts people, and I think you need to be mindful of that. Um, but in the reality is Trinity is that time, place, and person. I
Well,
would add
Richard said
person.
he agrees. He said he didn't
Yeah,
realize he thought we were talking about at all. No, we're not talking about at all. What we were saying is, as far as understanding the subjects that you bring into the situation, understanding when to bring them up and when not to bring them up is what I was saying. Understand who you're meeting with and what the goal of that meeting is. If the goal of that meeting is just to introduce somebody to do business with, it doesn't matter what their thoughts on or different things. Like him and I, Lou and I have a wide range of individuals that we deal with on the spectrum of Republican, Democrat, a lot of money, not a lot of money, social justice and not, and it doesn't matter, right? We're not there for that. We're there to get somebody help and put them in treatment. So if you're able to
right.
help me get this person in treatment, it doesn't matter what your thoughts are on. We'll deal with that another day, if at all. Like it doesn't matter to me. And so that's what I mean by understanding, like, because once again, this is all revolving around in-person meetings and all the anxiety that people have, and they don't know what to do, how to bring it up, and they overthink things. And so we're trying to give you some ideas to help bring some of that inner peace and give you all the tools necessary to have these in-person meetings in a skillful way. And part of that skill set is understanding when to bring certain subjects up and who to bring them up to. I agree with
Right.
you that they should be talked about. That's the only way that we're going to get to any sort of resolution or compromise. But Louis and I talking to somebody about maybe running a commercial or something like that. It has no bearing. We're not going to solve any world's problems by doing that. So that's
Right.
not the best time to bring it up. So, um,
Yeah, the only person we can't help are blue people, and that's why dead people don't recover. So that's the only color that I don't want to see. are blue people.
All right, so
And
moving
all
on.
money's green, so
Yeah, it is.
nobody cares.
Like Jordan said, even Republicans buy shoes.
Well,
Next one.
unless you're money's red.
Inviting, real quick, inviting others. This is an interesting one when it comes to in-person meetings. Like matter of fact, Simon. Well, first of all, Simon says, "I'll talk the subject with anyone if they want, but as they're saying, it's timing and you indicate intent also matters." Absolutely. But with
Yeah.
Simon, for instance, Simon and I will occasionally, every so often, no set amount of time, but we'll reach out to one another and we'll say, "Hey, man, let's just meet up." So we'll meet up at a local Starbucks here and we'll sit down and kind of just catch up a little bit. Um, it would be inappropriate if either one of us said, "Hey, yeah, let's meet up at this time and this date, cool," and then the other person shows up with a friend. It would be like, "Whoa, okay, like that's
Yeah, I'm not.
weird." So
Yeah.
inviting others is what we're talking about. When is it appropriate to bring a friend along, and when is it appropriate to show up solo? Like plus ones essentially. And I think the good rule of thumb of that: ask, ask.
Is it weird that I learned that lesson because I was the dope man, younger man? I mean, I hated when
Hey,
people brought
maybe.
somebody to my house, but that's how I learned that lesson. It was like, dude, why'd you bring him, man? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And leaving it in the car while you're inside my place doesn't make it any better. You know what I mean? Doesn't make it
Yeah.
any better. So yeah, I think it. But that's how I learned the lesson in full disclosure. But anyway, in reality, I think that you should say if you wanted to bring some, just say it up front.
Ask.
I'm probably say that's cool. But if I'm the one that called the meeting to talk to you about a certain thing, and you brought certain somebody, and that we can't have that conversation, then you kind of just ruined the whole reason why
Yeah.
I wanted to have the meeting in the first place. But then say it. Then
Yeah.
I think it's the onus is on me then to say that. Say, hey man, I was just hoping it would just be us two because I kind of want to talk to you about something. And that's different. You
Yeah.
got to say it. Don't hold it in.
Yeah, and on that same wavelength. So first of all, I think we both agree when it comes to bringing somebody, ask. Just say, "Hey, man, is it cool if I bring X, Y, and Z?" But on the same wavelength, there we have written here introductions to opposite personalities. Um, Not all friends, just because they're friends with you, doesn't mean that they're going to be friends with your friends.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Like I've met a lot of people in my life from varying different degrees of experiences and life things, right? Like to this day, I'm still friends with people that I know are probably right now out breaking the law, doing something they shouldn't be doing. I'm not going to bring that person and introduce them to ex-sheriff Demings. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to bring them to that gathering. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's understanding who you're interacting with on both sides, and just because you get along with both of them doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get along with each other. And just so essentially be cognizant of who you're introducing to one another.
Yeah, that's always interesting when you see people that have parties. Like we don't throw parties, you know what I mean? But some people do, and they
Yeah.
and it's interesting to me when I play in my head about like God, man, if we would throw a party, I have these friends, but I wouldn't put them all together. And it's no disrespect to anybody other than it's just odd. So I can assure you this though, at my funeral, you will see all the variations of friends that I have. So
Yeah.
that's going to be an interesting day at my funeral because you're definitely going to see an array of people. Uh, I won't, but you will.
Speaking on that same wavelengths too, I have play dates. All right, so I have a personal stake in this one. I used to hate these. Oh my god, every girlfriend or every woman that was in my life for more than a day, they always have like a girlfriend, and they would always want me to have a play date with their girlfriend's like husband or boyfriend or whatever. And it would always end the same, except for one time actually. It would always end the same. We'd show up, "Hey man, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And then they would go off, and me and him were just sitting there like, "So, what's up, man?" Like, in other words, we're not friends. Our paths would never cross. The only thing we
Right.
have in common is the girls that we are intimately involved with are friends. That's it. That's all we have in common. And now we're being forced to have this really awkward like play date with one another. Stop. I don't know. I don't personally know of any men that do this. Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that, so I can only speak from my own perspective. Ladies, please stop. Please stop setting your boys up on play dates, man. Like, just stop. It only worked out for me one time. Kevlon Kirkpatrick, man. That dude is awesome. And matter of fact, our friendship has outlasted both of the relationships we were in. He was married and I had a girlfriend, and they were friends. They are now divorced, and of course, my girlfriend and I are no longer together. But him and I are still friends. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Like,
You know,
but
Dana
Go
used
ahead.
to look at, I tried to do it early on. I was the guy that probably tried to do it, but I didn't know I didn't know what I was trying to do. And matter of fact, I don't even really recall correctly why. But like, let's say I had met, and this is early 20s that I had met. Dana always brings up our accountants, whatever. So, but she would be like, I'd be like, oh man, you should hang out with my wife. You remind me of my wife. And Dana would be like, why you want me to hang out with her? So she always thought that there was an alternative motive. So I stopped doing that day. That day I was like, you know what? Nope, nope, nope. I didn't know it looked like that or sounded like that. I didn't mean to sound like that. So I cut that out in my early mid 20s or whatever like that. But yeah. Somebody just set me up on a play date not too long ago. Julie did.
Oh
And
yeah.
with her husband and her son to play golf. And luckily that worked out. But would that constitute as a play day? She set it up. Like they invited me to play in their foursome at a golf tournament.
I think that's a
So I
little
went
bit
and
different.
played with her son
I
and
don't think she's
her.
trying to force a friendship in that situation. I think she just does. I think she respects us and we respect her. We have a working relationship. And I think she just wanted to introduce her husband because he's an integral part of her
Okay,
life. Like I think that's a little bit different, personally.
good because I
Um,
enjoyed playing. They were
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
man. Good
Uh,
golfers too, man.
Next one I have on here is tone. This one I gotta be honest, I am not good on apparently, according to my wife. Uh, Tone. Understand that the tone of your voice or the tone of how you're speaking is going to mean a lot when you're in, when you're, it's one of the positive and negative things, right, of texting somebody. You can't read the tone. You don't know how they're coming across, right? But while you're in person, your tone could also be misread oftentimes. Apparently, a lot of times people think that I'm angry or I'm upset or whatever when I'm really not. I am a bit of a smartass, so my tone sometimes, I guess, can be sarcastic or very monotone, and it's hard to read because I've been told that a lot too, that I'm hard to read, which I don't feel that I am, because if I'm upset with you, trust me, you're gonna know. That's one of the benefits of being a big dude. I don't have to hide if I'm upset with somebody. I can pretty much tell you I'm gonna be upset. Um, but my whole life, people have always like tried to read into what I'm saying and what I meant and things of that nature. And like I said, I've had the luxury I don't have to hide what I really feel. I can just tell you point blank. But apparently, tone means a lot. So just try to be aware of how you may or may not be coming across when you're speaking to people, because they might be reading into your tone more than what you're putting. So in other words, what you're saying and what they're hearing could be different based upon nothing but the tone. And I'm still working on that. Full transparency. There's days where I apparently my tone is in a way that I wasn't intending.
Yeah,
So that is something that I'm still currently working on.
yeah. My daughters and my wife say that all the time. They always say, "You sound angry.
Yeah,
You
that's
mad?"
my wife and my
Talk.
daughters are telling me that all the time. So
I honestly say I sound angry. I say things kind of rough sometimes, like
yes,
you know what I mean. But
yes,
I'm not mad. They say I have like a bitch face, and that I sound angry, and it's like, well, I got to walk around like this all the time,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you know, if you come over to my house and my hair's down and I'm just chilling, and I'm not, I'm just what what I
yeah,
mean. I'm gonna say something. I got to worry about how I say it, so I don't know, man.
yeah.
But in public, you got to just be what the public allows you to be. But in home, that all rules are off when you come to my house. By the way, just so
Yeah,
you come to my house, that I might not even have a shirt on. I don't care. I might even be in my jacuzzi while we're talking. Good luck with everything
right.
else.
Yeah, the only ones that have said anything to me about my tone will be my wife and my daughters.
Yeah.
Nobody else in my life has ever really said anything about my tone, so I'm not sure if it's there. If it's who knows? That's debatable, right?
No, it might be. Again, it's the same
Yeah,
factor as like
yeah,
people don't tell you. It's just nobody else is probably going to tell me
yeah,
because again, because of who I am and how I am, and stuff, people don't always tell me the truth either because they
yeah,
walk on eggshells a little bit.
yeah,
And I get it. I understand. Uh, so I'm sorry.
yeah. That's all I can
Angry.
say too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm angry. And if I sounded angry or like I was discounting you, I'm sorry. Like that. Remember, I got so offended by that one lady at that one meeting that said something about mansplaining. Like, you're mansplaining. I was like, mansplaining. She put that in one of my posts, and I was like, I don't mansplain. What the hell is that about, man?
Yeah,
I've
I
never
don't even know.
been mansplaining in my life. But I think she just thought of it by the way I sound like this, and because I always have an opinion and always say something, that's the way I would be. And it was like, wow, that was pretty bad. Yeah, I don't want to be viewed as a jerky guy like that. I mean, I have
Right.
daughters and a wife. I feel like I'm pretty respectful to women and people, but you know,
Well, the next one, now that you said it, is respect. This one, I'll make it sweet and short on this one. We've already kind of discussed it. Respect is a fluid thing. Everybody's got their own version of what respect looks like and feels like and sounds like. Um,
Yeah.
so when you're in person meeting with somebody, just understand that their definition of respect might be different than your own. And the interesting thing about respect is nobody's right and nobody's wrong. Right? What you deem as respectful or disrespectful, you're allowed to, and the other person's allowed to disagree with you. That's the cool, where the beauty is the compromise, right? How do we navigate respecting each other's boundaries while sticking to our own, And a lot of that has to do with how we respond to the disrespect. And so I think that just be wary of that. Just understand that you could potentially be disrespecting somebody and not even realizing it, and you're going to have to potentially navigate that at one point. Next one. I assume that you're kind of on the same page because we're running out of time, or we're
Yep.
well over time at this point.
Yep.
The next, we only got two more. So the next one is an interesting one, and this one I'm glad we're talking about. All right, so profanity. To do it,
Oh
not to
fuck.
do it.
No, I'm just
Exactly.
kidding.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, don't cuss, dude. I'm real sensitive about that shit. Um, all right, so this is an interesting thing, right?
I
So
apologize
profanity.
to anybody listening or watching that just got offended. I thought that was wrong.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing, right? Profanity. I think you and I are kind of similar. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. To me, it's words in the English language are meant to be used. They're great at getting emotion across. I don't just who I am. I don't like, and I've never liked. And my mom is probably still watching, so she can tell you even from a young age. I always thought it was crazy to me that somebody a long time ago said, "Well, that's bad," and now for the rest of the centuries, we're all like, "Yeah, that's bad." And nobody knows why. It's just because some dude a long time ago just deemed it as a bad word, which is stupid to me. But I'm fully aware that not everybody feels the same way, right? So in my personal life, the people who are close to me, I have no problem letting them fly. I have no problem if you want to let them fly. Does not bother me in the least. However,
Well,
I'm fully
yeah.
aware. I'm fully
Let's hear
aware though,
your
huh?
let's hear your however, because I definitely have some howevers.
My however would be I don't want my kids doing it until they're old enough. Once they're of age, you do whatever you want. Uh, in certain business settings or whatever, I would refrain from it because I don't want to offend somebody else who I'm dealing with because they might view it differently. In other words,
Oh,
I'm able to navigate a conversation without using it. I just choose to use it more often than not. But if I'm in a situation where it's deemed inappropriate or they're not really sure or whatever, there's no need. It's not a necessity to have.
right.
Like when we're on our radio show, not this one, but the actual terrestrial one, you can't. So we have to have it without it. Even though you said damn last night. But the point is, profanity is a very interesting thing because I don't personally think that there's anything necessarily inherently wrong with profanity. However, I'm fully aware that many people do, and so therefore if you're going to use it, you just got to navigate it skillfully. And if you don't think you can navigate it skillfully, then just don't use it at all.
Yeah, the this is one of those that as much as I love cursing, and I love it, I love the F word is on my list of words, other
Sure.
than faith and free and that. But prior to my kids being 18 years old, I didn't say it in my house. Matter of fact, you can ask my kids, and I'm very proud to be able to have stuck to that rule that I had for myself. Now, this is just my personal belief and opinion, but I had a rule to myself, self-imposed, never talked to me by anybody, that I will not use words like that until my kids were 18. Now, the day my youngest daughter turned 18 was the day that now I do it. And my wife said the other day, she goes, "Wow, shouldn't you just tone it down just a little bit for I said, "Not anymore." I said, "Man," I said, "Baby, I fulfilled my goal. My kids never heard me curse their entire lives up until and the reason, Trinity, is this: I didn't want them to have that as their childhood memories. I didn't want, and I don't know why, Trinity. By the way, I don't know why, other than the fact that I love the word so much. But I was always able to say that my parents never cursed in front of me. They still don't. And yet I curse like a sailor. So
Right.
they didn't show that to me. They didn't teach that to me. But I didn't want that to be a factor so I wouldn't feel guilty later on. So if they did talk like me, it had nothing to do with me. They didn't do with you girls.
Sure.
But I just did not want to be that man, for the girls, the
Yeah, I
daughters. You
can
know what I mean?
respect that.
Now, if I would have had boys, I guarantee you, if I would have had boys, it'd have been a whole different ballgame. I wouldn't have put that rule down. Now, that being said, I also would have let you know if I'm in a restaurant or something and you were talking a certain way, and I had my daughters there when they were little. I was that guy like, hey, and they would look over, and as soon as they'd see I have girls, I could just say, and I learned that from a friend. I actually, one of my friends was in town, Ramey, matter of fact, Ramey from Texas, and he goes, hey, bro, earmuffs, to somebody who was sitting next to us, earmuffs, and it was from that movie. I think it was, what about something like that? What about something?
What
Brett
about
Favre is in
Bob?
that. No,
Oh,
Brett Favre.
something about Mary.
Something about Mary. And I think it was earmuffs or something like that. And I learned that and I was like, yeah. So I started using that word. I go, hey. And they'd look at me. I go, earmuffs, man, earmuffs. And I'd look at the girls and they'd go, oh, yeah, sorry, bro.
Yeah.
So I did do that. I did, play Police of the World, Barney Fife a little bit when my daughters were young. But as soon as they were over 18, that's different. Now, if I hear some people talking about some sexual graphic stuff and my daughter's around, yeah, or my wife's
Yeah.
there, yeah, I'll be like, hey,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and
Anyway.
that goes to Richard's question, actually. Richard said, how do you navigate profanity respectfully? For me, it's a pretty simple rule, and that is I don't unless I hear them. You know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
kind of depends on the context of the conversation. If I hear them
Oh,
dropping,
okay. Sorry, from old
uh,
school.
I hear him. If I'm with somebody and I hear them dropping some profanity, like testing the waters, I'll throw a couple back. Like, and then usually when that happens, it's like, okay, we could like, all right, we could speak freely now. But if they don't ever do it, like there's certain individuals it'll never happen with because
Yeah.
that's just how they conduct them. Like
Yeah.
the first person that pops in my head, Miss Hammond, Barbara. I will never cuss in that woman's presence. Never gonna happen. And she could have the dirtiest mouth I've ever heard in my life. I don't know, but I will
Yeah.
never cuss in her presence. I just feel dirty cussing in front of her. It's just something about it.
My mother. I won't curse in front of my mother. It's just natural.
Your
It's
mother
not. It's not
cusses in front of us, though. I've heard her. I think
my
I've heard your
mother.
mom cuss. I think I've heard her cuss once or twice.
My mother has never cursed.
I
My
swear I
mother
heard her
doesn't
one
curse.
time. She was angry about
Whoa.
something.
No, bro.
I swear it was, but I could be wrong.
No, 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 no,
Um,
no, no.
but my point
That woman.
is,
If I would hear her curse, that would freak me out.
the point is, Richard, is the way you handle it respectfully is wait for the other person to do it, man. That's the easiest way. If they don't ever do it, then that sets the rules of your conversation. If you have to, if you're just itching to do it, okay, then throw in some like some benign ones. You know what I mean? Like you did last night with Dan.
Yeah.
Throw in some like little ones to see how they respond. If you say, "Oh, this damn thing sucks," and they're like, "Well, that's a cue to you," that they're probably not cool with
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
you know what's funny? My oldest daughter, and you know Dahlia. Dahlia is what now? Pushing 22 pretty soon.
is it really? Oh my god.
Yeah, she still thinks hell is a bad word. Crap, hell, piss. Those to her are still bad words. And so here's why I'm bringing that up. Be mindful that to someone else, your normal language may be cursing. So like Trinity said, if you start seeing them cringe or feel a little awkward, or here's a good hint. When they use like weird I have a business
Oh,
partner.
fudge sickles.
Yeah, that says that kind of stuff. She says that stuff, and I'll be like, that tells me don't use the F word around this
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
Because to that person, they use funny words to be curse words. And if they're doing
yeah.
that, there's a reason.
Well, which is
So, like
is
around religious people, I don't curse like that.
yeah, which is very disingenuous to me, by the way, because the intent is still there. If I
No, it's
know
respect.
if I know what you're trying to say, but you just say no, we all know what you're trying to do, but whatever. Like I get it, I give him a pass. But if we're thinking about it in a logical sense, stop. But anyways,
No, the word, no, and I don't mean to cut you, the word that doesn't count is if you say frickin', frickin' in Germany is the F word. So frickin' is not some made up word that just, it's
yeah,
like fudge sickles. Frickin' actually is the F word in German, man.
nice. And the last one we have here, and I think this is actually probably to me is one of the most important ones, and it seems to be a lost art in today's youth, and that is active listening. So I'm sure I know you can relate because we've talked about it, and if you're watching this, I guarantee you can probably relate, or if you're listening to this, if you have a teenage child, have you ever addressed this teenage child and tried to speak to them, and they won't even look up from their phone? You're trying to talk to them, and they're responding to you. They're like, yeah, and they're obviously looking at their phones. Okay, that is the opposite of active listening, right? Active listening is what he's doing right there. He's nodding his head. You're doing something. You're saying something. You're parroting back to the person. You're doing something to signify to that other person, I hear you. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm responding to you. I'm either shaking my head, yes. I'm doing some sort of a facial expression. I'm saying, really? Oh. Okay, yeah. I'm doing something that signifies that A, you still have my attention. B, I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm trying to understand it. It's a respect situation, right? And yeah, Richard said eye contact works as well. Uh, um, so active listening, kids, that means put the phone down. Like it's very difficult to give somebody your attention when you're looking at. That's the definition of you're not having my attention. You're getting a part of my attention. You're getting whatever I can hear in my peripheral. Like you know, the basic. I can hear vibrations of sound coming in that direction, but I'm really looking at this. That's what you're saying. Whether you're intending to say that or not, I don't know. So the point is active listening. Put the phone down. What I like to do if I'm out in public and I'm trying to have an actual conversation, I'll take my phone and I'll flip it over. That way, I'm not tempted to look down at a notification or something like that if I'm involved in that kind of a conversation. But active listening, I can't express it enough. To me, I think that's one of the most important things we've discussed, and that is actively listen to whoever it is. They took the time out of their day to sit down with you. They could be doing a million different things. The least you could do is to give them your attention and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. Um, Although I love it when it's done to me, active listening, I mess up a lot. And I'll tell you why. Because, by the way, my little Zoe needs that lesson. But I mess up a lot because Dana, I'm always doing something and she's talking, talking, talking. And I'm not looking at her sometimes. And, I'll be here on the computer doing something on the two computers at the same time, editing. I'm also watching the TV. And but Dana asks a question after everything she says. She'll ask it and she goes, right? Or she'll like throw a little question mark in so many sentences. And I'll say, I'll do a quick one word
Right.
response to one. Then she'll throw another one in there. But what she's wanting is me to go on with that. But if I don't want to talk about that or I don't really care about that, I'm like, what? I already responded to that. And she'll be like, well, yeah, but all you want is, I was like, well, I have nothing else to add. You asked like a lot of questions, man. I don't have anything. So I'll try to get out of the situation, but what it is I'm not looking at. All she's really wanted is my full attention. I'm not looking at her. I'm not fully engaged in the conversation, and that's why she keeps on throwing a question at the thing. So the hint is sometimes people do that because you're not listening, and I tend to not listen or try to multitask while in a conversation. And sometimes here's what I got to do: put it on pause, turn around, and I'll look right at her. What's up, baby? And don't do it like this. What?
Well, you can. You just might not like the response. At least not in my
Well, it's
house.
like, because here's what I learned. If I actively listen and really give her some attention, yeah, that might last about 15 minutes of real conversation, right? And then I might even get like a sandwich or something out of the deal. There's something inside of a nurturing woman that wants to give you something for just doing what you're supposed to do anyway. It's so weird.
Right.
But if I don't do it and I ignore,
Oh, she'll
now
give
it's
you a
going to go
hard
on
time
for
now.
30, 45
Yeah.
minutes. And it's
Yeah.
not well. So
Um, Yeah,
it's,
Richard.
it's
Richard said, "Did you take a class in school called life management skills?" Because yeah, actually, I did. That was part of our.
no.
He went to the same high school as me. We had to take that in order to graduate. That was one of the classes.
Oh, really?
But they are not teaching that stuff these days. I have one that's 21. They already graduated high school. I got another one that's going to be a senior next year, and then I got a fifth and fourth grader, and none of them have had anything that resembles what we're talking about. And I think that's why we're having this, is
Wow.
because I think a lot of adults just forgotten. And I think a lot of the youth never had it. And so there's a whole slew of people out there just walking around with their inner peace all in turmoil because they're either anxious about this or they're in trouble about something or they're worried about, and they don't know how to do it skillfully. And that's why we're doing our communication series, is how to communicate in a skillful way to which you reduce the anxiety, you reduce
Well,
the stress.
but if everything's opinion, like the respect thing, then what does it matter? They look in my daughter's viewpoint, looking down while she's on the phone. What? I am listening. So it's like the clothing thing or the tattoos thing or something like that. If she thinks you look in their generation, they think they're giving it to you. So it's us telling them what respect really is, or what communication really is, or what that really is. But we have to also understand that in their world, that multitasking, even though I don't believe they're really paying attention, because I could throw something right through it that gets
Of
by.
course. Well,
So,
it's been
but
scientifically proven you can't
but
multitask.
yeah, but it's like everything else, man. The kid's always going to be like, I'd hate to be the teacher of that, because they'd be like, well, what
Yeah.
makes that true? So what? I'm
Yeah,
looking at my phone.
I think that that's what we're talking about is at the end of the day, and this will be our final stuff because we're at the end now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Close it out, bro. 2 hour
Yeah,
show.
yeah, man. At the end of the day, really, that's kind of what we're getting at. Is at the end of the day, you're really only responsible with how you respond to things. And if your response is coming from a place of you guys all should think the same way I do, you're going to be awfully upset throughout the day, and you're going to upset others. It's
Right.
okay to have your way of doing things. It's okay to have your perspective, your vision. Totally cool. But it's not totally cool to expect everybody else in the world to have your exact same
Right.
vision on things. And so understand that whatever your vision is, that person might not share it, which means they might not give you what you're wanting in return. They might respond in a way that you disagree with. And if you're not okay with that, then you're going to have to adjust you. You can't adjust them. So back to our previous point that we disagreed on. If I was going through a whole bunch of stuff and I was not getting the things that I wanted and it was a direct result of how I'm dressed or whatever, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm either going to have to get over it or I'm going to have to change the way I dress. Which is why there's certain instances I do go out dressed differently because I know I want a different response and I know these people value that. And that's what I'm telling you. At the end of the day, the only thing that you can control is your response to what's taking place. And your response should come from a place of understanding that not everybody views everything the same way you do. And if you're wanting to work with those people, there's going to have to be a compromise. And instead of expecting them to compromise first, you start first by compromising by saying, okay, well, let me do this. You know, the Doper Dharma told me I got to active listen, so that's fine. Blame us, but start doing
Did you
it, and
have
you might.
wait? You have to use a country accent when you did that?
I'm stuffy right now, so maybe that's what's happening. Anyways, let's see. Richard said, "Great show. Make sure it's shareable, please." Absolutely, man. It'll be shareable right after this. Tonight, maybe tonight. I don't know. It'll be up on audio because
Wait, time out. So first you go right after this, then you started thinking, like, Louis ain't gonna get it done. So
I
maybe
don't think
tonight.
last week's even up yet, right?
Oh, mine, yeah. Last week's. Oh, what are you talking about?
Is last week up?
Dharma time?
Yeah, is it? I don't even know.
Oh, it was up. I sent
Okay.
you the message.
Is the video up?
Yeah, the
Did you ever
video
send?
was up.
Okay. All right. So Richard, this will be up eventually. Be it today, tomorrow, or next few days. It'll be up on YouTube.com/Dharma Time if you want the video. Podcast wise, it'll be up on any major platform that you listen to podcasting
Yep.
on, like
Yep.
Spotify, iTunes, all of them for the most part. And then of course you can always refer back to the Facebook one that you're watching now. Although the other ones will be much higher quality, but yes, they're always shareable. And please share, man. By all means, the more the merrier, man. The
Yeah.
more people who listen and get value, the more we're heard and the more we can do. So, anyways, man, I think that's all we got today. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Sorry, I apologize for the long show, but we had a lot to say today. And I think that's all we got. So now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.